I clutched my stomach, fighting another wave of nausea as I fumbled with the house keys. This wasn't how I'd planned to spend my afternoon, but sometimes life throws you curveballs. Or in my case, a nasty bout of morning sickness that refused to confine itself to mornings. "Daniel," I called out as I stepped inside. Silence greeted me. Strange. His car was in the driveway. I made my way upstairs, my footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. As I neared our bedroom, I heard it. A soft giggle followed by a low murmur. My heart began to race, a cold dread settling in my chest. The door was ajar. I pushed it open, and the world stopped spinning. There, tangled in our sheets, was my husband. And he wasn't alone. "Daniel." My voice came out as a strangled whisper. They froze, two deer caught in headlights. The woman, blonde, petite, definitely not me, let out a small shriek and ducked under the covers. Daniel's face drained of color. "Lila, you're home early." He scrambled to sit up, pulling the sheet around his waist. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My hand moved of its own accord, fishing my phone from my pocket. I snapped a picture before either of them could react. "Lila, wait." Daniel started, but I was already backing out of the room. I fled down the stairs, my vision blurring with unshed tears. How could he destroy everything we'd built together? Our marriage, our future, our baby. My hand instinctively went to my still flat stomach. Oh God, the baby. What was I going to do? I grabbed my purse and bolted out the front door, ignoring Daniel's shouts behind me. I needed to get away. Caroline. My best friend would know what to do. As I drove, my mind raced. Who was that woman? How long had this been going on? And what would happen to us, to our child now? One thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. I burst into Caroline's apartment, my whole body shaking. "He's cheating on me, Car." I saw them. I saw everything. Caroline's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with fury. "That bastard." "Oh, Lila." She pulled me into a tight hug, and I finally let the tears flow. "What am I going to do?" I sobbed. "The baby. First, we're going to sit down and breathe," Caroline said firmly, guiding me to her couch. "Then, we're going to figure this out." As I sipped the tea Caroline made, my phone buzzed incessantly. "Daniel." I silenced it, my stomach churning. "We need to know what we're dealing with," Caroline said, her jaw set. "Give me his phone password." I hesitated, then nodded. It felt wrong, but I needed answers. Caroline's fingers flew over Daniel's synced tablet. Her face grew grimmer with each swipe. "Lila, this goes back months. There are messages, photos." "Let me see," I whispered. The evidence was damning. Intimate conversations, plans for secret rendezvous. My world crumbled further with each revelation. Then Caroline gasped. "Oh my God! Lila, look at this." She showed me a photo, and my blood ran cold. I recognized the woman instantly. Emily Winters, a girl we'd known in college. She'd had a reputation for pursuing taken men, leaving a trail of broken relationships in her wake. "This isn't just an affair," Caroline said, her voice hard. "It's a calculated betrayal. We need to act." "What do you mean?" Caroline's eyes glinted with determination. "Emily's always been a homewrecker. But you're carrying his child. We're not letting them get away with this." A spark of anger ignited in my chest, cutting through the fog of despair. "You're right. I won't let them destroy my life, or my baby's future." "That's my girl," Caroline smiled grimly. "Now let's start planning. You need a lawyer for starters." As we began to strategize, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Daniel. It was Sylvia, my mother-in-law. "Lila, dear." Daniel's frantic. "He says you left upset. What's going on?" I froze, uncertain how to respond. Sylvia had always been kind to me, but she was Daniel's mother. Whose side would she take? "Lila." Sylvia's voice grew concerned. "Are you there? Do you need help?" I looked at Caroline, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, I made a decision that would set the course for everything to come. "Sylvia," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I need to talk to you. It's about Daniel." Sylvia arrived at Caroline's apartment in a whirlwind of concern and Chanel number 5. "Lila, darling, what's happened?" she asked, her perfectly manicured hands grasping mine. I took a deep breath and told her everything. As I spoke, Sylvia's expression shifted from shock to anger to something I couldn't quite read. "That boy," she muttered, shaking her head. "I'll talk to him, Lila. We'll sort this out." "I don't know if there's anything to sort out," I said, my voice breaking. "He's been lying to me for months." Sylvia's eyes narrowed. Now, let's not be hasty. Marriage is about forgiveness, dear. Think of the baby." I felt a twinge in my abdomen and winced. Sylvia noticed immediately. "Are you all right? Should we call a doctor?" Before I could answer, a sharp pain ripped through me. I doubled over, crying out, "Hospital! Now!" Caroline said firmly, already dialing 911. The next few hours passed in a blur of sirens, white corridors, and beeping machines. Through it all, Sylvia remained by my side, her presence both comforting and oddly unsettling. "Everything will be fine," she kept saying, smoothing my hair. "Just focus on the baby. I'll handle everything else." As the doctor examined me, I caught snippets of a hushed conversation outside my room. "Stress-induced complications. Need to avoid further upset." Sylvia's voice low and intense. "I understand, doctor. We'll make sure she's well taken care of." When they returned, the doctor's face was grave. "Mrs. Walker, you're experiencing some concerning symptoms. We need to keep you here for observation." Panic clawed at my throat. "The baby! Stable for now, but we need to monitor you both closely." As the doctor left, Sylvia squeezed my hand. "Don't you worry about a thing, Lila. I'll talk to Daniel, smooth everything over. You just rest and think of that precious little one." I nodded weakly, too exhausted to argue. But as I drifted off, lulled by the rhythmic beeping of the fetal monitor, a nagging thought wormed its way into my mind. Why did it feel like Sylvia was more concerned about smoothing things over with Daniel than she was about my well-being? I woke hours later to hushed voices. Cracking my eyes open, I saw Sylvia in the corner of the room, speaking urgently into her phone. "Need to fix this, Daniel. Your child's future is at stake. Meet me at the house in an hour. We'll strategize." As she hung up, Sylvia turned and saw me watching. Her face smoothed into a warm smile, but I'd seen the calculation in her eyes. In that moment, I realized I was facing not one betrayal but two. And as my baby shifted inside me, I knew I'd have to fight not just for myself, but for both of us. The next few weeks were a blur of hospital rooms, beeping monitors, and hushed conversations. My pregnancy had become high risk, and the doctors insisted on bed rest. Through it all, Sylvia was a constant presence, her perfectly manicured nails tapping away on her phone as she handled everything. When the contractions started, I was terrified. It was too early, but as I gazed into my newborn son's eyes for the first time, a fierce love overwhelmed me. "Liam, my little fighter. He's perfect," I whispered, cradling him close. Sylvia cooed over the baby, but her eyes were calculating. "He looks just like Daniel, doesn't he? A true Walker man." I bristled at the mention of Daniel, who had yet to make an appearance. "He's his own person, Sylvia." She waved her hand dismissively. "Of course, dear. Now about Daniel."
"I don't want to discuss him," I said firmly. Sylvia's eyes narrowed. "Lila, you need to think about Liam's future. A boy needs his father. A faithful father, maybe." I shot back. "People make mistakes," Sylvia said, her voice hardening. "Daniel is sorry. He wants to make things right." I was about to argue when a nurse entered, announcing visiting hours were over. Sylvia left reluctantly, promising to return tomorrow. As soon as she was gone, I felt like I could breathe again. I looked down at Liam, sleeping peacefully in my arms. "It's just you and me now, little one," I whispered. The next morning, I woke to find Sylvia already in my room, Liam in her arms. "There's my handsome grandson," she cooed. "Don't worry, Lila. I've got everything under control." You just focus on getting better so you can come home. Home? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. Of course. I've moved into the guest room to help with the baby. Daniel's so excited to be a father. The room seemed to spin. Sylvia, I can't. Nonsense, she interrupted. Liam needs his family. You'll see. Everything will work out. As she spoke, I saw my future stretching out before me. Trapped in a loveless marriage, constantly reminded of Daniel's betrayal, with Sylvia pulling the strings, and Liam caught in the middle of it all. In that moment, I knew I had to make a choice. Stay and try to make it work for Liam's sake, or leave and build a new life for us both. I reached for my phone, my hands shaking. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. Caroline, I whispered when she picked up. I need you. Can you come to the hospital? And can you bring some paperwork? I think I need a lawyer. The hospital room felt suffocating as I cradled Liam, torn between love for my son and dread of the future Sylvia was orchestrating. Just as I was about to spiral into despair, a knock at the door jolted me back to reality. Lila. My brother Ethan's concerned face appeared, followed by his wife Beth's gentle smile. Oh, thank God you're here, I whispered, tears welling up. As they cooed over Liam, I poured out everything. Daniel's affair, Sylvia's manipulation, my fears for the future. Ethan's jaw clenched tighter with each revelation, while Beth's eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. We're not letting you go through this alone, Ethan declared, his protective big brother instincts in full force. Beth nodded, adding, We've got a guest room already. You and Liam can stay with us as long as you need. Hope flickered in my chest, but doubt quickly extinguished it. I can't just leave. Sylvia's already talking about me moving back home, about Daniel being a father to Liam. Listen to me, Beth said, her voice firm but kind. You don't have to endure this alone. We're here for you, and we'll help you build a new life, one where you and Liam are safe and happy. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a message from Daniel, coming to see you and the baby. We need to talk about our future. Panic seized me. I wasn't ready to face him, to hear his excuses or Sylvia's manipulations. I can't do this, I choked out. Ethan's eyes hardened with resolve. Then don't. We're getting you out of here now. But how? I asked, gesturing to the various monitors and 4 lines. Beth smiled, a glint of mischief in her eyes. Leave that to me. I didn't become head nurse at County General for nothing. As Beth sweet-talked the staff and Ethan gathered my belongings, I held Liam close, whispering promises of a better life. This was it, our chance at freedom, at happiness. But as we prepared to leave, doubt crept in. Was I making the right choice? Could I really start over, raise Liam alone? Then I remembered the look in Sylvia's eyes as she held my son, the way she spoke of him as a pawn in her grand plans. I thought of Daniel's betrayal, of the life of lies that awaited us if we stayed. No, we deserved better. With a deep breath, I nodded to Ethan and Beth. Let's go. As we slipped out of the hospital, Liam nestled safely in my arms. I knew this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. We were taking the first step towards our new life, and I was ready to fight for it with everything I had. Living with Ethan and Beth was a godsend, but I knew it was only temporary. I needed to secure my future with Liam, and that meant gathering irrefutable evidence of Daniel and Sylvia's true natures. With Caroline's help, I set up hidden cameras in our old apartment during one of Daniel's work trips. It felt wrong and invasive, but I reminded myself of what was at stake. For Liam, I whispered, my hands shaking as I positioned the last camera. The next few days were agonizing. I watched through the camera feeds as Daniel returned, immediately calling Emily over. Their casual intimacy in our home, our bed, made me physically ill. But it was Sylvia's visit that truly chilled me to the bone. Daniel's darling, she cooed. We need to discuss the Lila situation. She can't just take my grandson away. I listened, horrified, as they plotted. Talk of custody battles, character assassination, even hints at bribing judges. They were planning to destroy me, to take Liam away. We'll make her look unstable, Sylvia said, her voice cold. No judge will give custody to an unfit mother. Panic clawed at my throat. I had to act fast. I compiled everything, the affair footage, the scheming conversations, financial records showing Daniel's misuse of our joint accounts. My hands trembled as I organized it all, knowing this was my one shot at freedom. Just as I finished, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel, "We need to talk. Coming over to Ethan's tomorrow. It's about Liam's future." My heart raced. They must have found out where I was staying. This was it, the moment of confrontation I'd been dreading and preparing for. I called Caroline, my voice shaking. "It's time. Can you come over? I need someone in my corner." As I hung up, Liam started crying from the next room. I rushed to him, scooping him into my arms. "It's okay, baby," I murmured, as much to myself as to him. "Mommy's got you. We're going to be okay." But as I held him, doubt crept in. Was I really ready for this? Could I stand up to Daniel and Sylvia, protect Liam, and secure our future? I looked down at my son, his tiny hand curled around my finger. In that moment, I knew. For him, I could do anything. Tomorrow would change everything. I had to be ready. The morning of Daniel's visit dawned with a sense of foreboding. I paced Ethan's living room, Liam cradled against my chest, my heart racing. Caroline arrived early, her presence a comforting anchor in the storm of my emotions. "You've got this, Lila," she reassured me, squeezing my hand. "We're all here for you." Ethan and Beth positioned themselves strategically around the room, a united front against whatever was coming. The doorbell rang, and I felt my whole body tense. Daniel strode in, Sylvia close behind. Their faces were masks of concern, but I could see the calculation in their eyes. "Lila, darling," Sylvia began, her voice sickly sweet. "We're here to talk sense into you. This little adventure has gone on long enough." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "No, Sylvia. This isn't an adventure. This is me protecting my son and myself." Daniel stepped forward, his charm on full display. "Come on, Lila. We can work this out. For Liam's sake." The mention of our son's name ignited something in me. I handed Liam to Caroline and reached for the folder of evidence I'd prepared. "For Liam's sake?" I echoed, my voice stronger than I felt. "Let's talk about what's really best for him."
I laid out the evidence, photos, financial records, transcripts of their scheming conversations. With each revelation, Daniel and Sylvia's faces grew paler. You've been spying on us?" Daniel sputtered, outrage replacing his charm. "I've been protecting myself and my child," I countered. "And now I have proof of everything. Your affair, your financial manipulations, your plans to take Liam from me." Sylvia's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You ungrateful little." "That's enough," Ethan interjected, stepping between us. "I think it's time you both left." As Beth ushered them towards the door, Daniel turned back, his face a mix of anger and desperation. "This isn't over, Lila. You can't keep my son from me." I met his gaze, feeling a strength I didn't know I possessed. "Watch me." The door closed behind them, and suddenly the room was spinning. I collapsed onto the couch, overwhelmed by what had just transpired. "You did it, Lila," Caroline whispered, handing Liam back to me. "You stood up to them." As I held my son close, I realized this was just the beginning. The real battle for custody for our future was still ahead. But looking around at the loving faces of my family and friends, I knew I wasn't alone. "This is the first step towards our new beginning, Liam," I murmured, kissing his forehead. "And I promise you, I'll never stop fighting for us." The road ahead would be hard, but for the first time in months, I felt truly free. Whatever came next, I was ready to face it. For Liam and for myself. 6 months after my confrontation with Daniel and Sylvia, I stood in the bustling farmer's market, Liam cooing happily in his stroller. My new life was taking shape. A cozy apartment near Ethan's, a part-time nursing job, and a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. "Lila!" A familiar voice sent a chill down my spine. I turned to see Sylvia, her perfectly coiffed hair at odds with her haggard expression. "Hello, Sylvia," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. She glanced at Liam, her eyes softening momentarily. "He's gotten so big. Daniel misses him terribly, you know." I steeled myself. "Sylvia, we've been through this. The court's decision was clear. Her face hardened. We can still appeal. You can't keep us from our grandson forever. I'm not keeping anyone from Liam, I countered. Daniel has his visitation rights. He chooses not to use them. Sylvia stepped closer, her voice low and threatening. You ungrateful little witch. After everything we did for you. Everything you did. I interrupted, my voice rising. Nearby shoppers turned to look. You mean like trying to manipulate me into staying in a toxic marriage? Or plotting to take my son away? Sylvia blanched, clearly not expecting me to stand up to her so publicly. I'm stronger than you ever gave me credit for. I continued, my voice firm. Liam and I deserve better than your schemes and Daniel's betrayals. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. No, Sylvia. This ends now. You can tell Daniel that if he wants to be a father to Liam, he needs to step up and act like one. But you're done trying to control our lives. With that, I turned and walked away, pushing Liam's stroller. My hands were shaking, but my steps were sure. As we reached the car, I saw Caroline waiting, concern etched on her face. Are you okay? I saw Sylvia. I took a deep breath, then smiled. You know what? I really am. Loading Liam into his car seat, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, I truly believed in my ability to navigate it. That night, as I tucked Liam into bed, I whispered a promise to him and to myself. We're going to be just fine, little one. More than fine, we're going to thrive. As I closed his nursery door, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me was stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. She was a survivor, a protector, and a damn good mother. And she was ready for whatever came next.